Hi guys, John here. We got a kind of special one today. So this is the flower of a dragon fruit. It grows on a cactus, and we have one in our front yard. The reason this is so cool is that these flowers only bloom for one night, and then, if they were pollinated properly, they turn into a dragon fruit. So as you can see, this is a very complex flower, and so I want to use this as an opportunity to show you how I sketch something in that's really complicated. So this may be a little difficult to see, but before I started this drawing, I went in and I made kind of an invisible grid on the paper. Every inch vertically and every inch horizontally, I have a very small dot. And I'm using these dots like a grid to help me get a guide to where I should put these lines. I've taken the sample image and I put it in Canva. You can use whatever you'd like. You could even print it out and draw a grid onto your own picture. But basically, I've got a grid on my original photo and I'm transferring it this way, pretending that the grid is here on my paper. And so I'm going to carefully work through here and try to get everything proportionate to each other. And I might shut up for a little bit, speed the video up a little bit more, let you listen to some music and watch me finish drawing this. While I'm drawing this in, I'm kind of thinking ahead of time as to what colors I intend to use for the painting itself. Obviously the flower is white and the leaves are green, but that leaves me an opportunity to choose what I'd like for my background. And so while I'm sitting here thinking about it, I think it would look really nice if I use kind of a reddish orange background. And so once I get this in here, I will jump onto the background, and I think I'm going to start with some reddish orange. And so now that I've drawn in my initial outlines here, I'm going to come through with my kneaded eraser and I'm going to kind of halfway erase all of these lines. I don't want them completely gone, but if I leave them like they are now, they're going to be too dark and they're going to bleed through. And I don't really want the pencil itself to bleed through. So just like you can see here, I'm lightly erasing them so that I can still see them, but they're not so dark. And then we're going to jump onto the painting. So here we go with the painting. Like I said, I kind of like a orangish reddish background. So I start here with kind of the neutral orange color. I'm going to come in with some yellow with some red in different areas. I don't want it to be the same color all over. I'd like some variance in the background so that it doesn't look too boring, because there's going to be a lot of it here. And so some good variance not only will look nice, but it also means that I don't have to mix exactly the same color every time, which makes it easier on myself as well. I'm being very careful to leave the spot that the flower is going to be blank, because it'll be white, it'll be green. Those don't cover over orange very well. It's going to get very muddy if I don't leave it white underneath. And so I'm using that outline to give me a guide to paint around. getting pretty close to finish with this background here. I would like to let it dry before I go on to anything else, because I don't want the green to bleed with the orange, because it will make a nasty poopy brown color. And so once I finish this, I'm gonna sit back. I think I put a Scrabble World Championship YouTube video on, and I watched that for a little bit and let it dry. Obviously, you don't have to watch Scrabble while you're letting your painting dry, but that's what I find interesting. so I'm gonna sit here for a little bit, let this dry. I'll speed it up a little more. And so that section there where I stopped and let it dry was about 25 seconds long. I had to speed the video up 2,000 times to get it to 25 seconds. So I let it completely dry just to make sure that I didn't blend anything together. And so what I'm doing now is I'm cleaning off my palette, getting all that orange off, and I'm gonna start going in with green. It's gonna be a bit of a yellow green. I always work from back to front, and so I'm gonna come around here and get a nice light yellow on all of the leaves that are yellow. Now that I've got a light yellowish green, I'm going to come through and add a bit of a darker green so I can indicate the sections of it that are in shadow in the original photo. So I don't want to get anything too finished at this stage, so I'm going to move on to the petals of the flower. It is a white flower, and so in order to make it look white, I'm going to get kind of a bluish gray for my shadows. And then anything that's not in shadow, I'm basically going to leave untouched. I will come through with colored pencils and pens, and if you've seen any of my videos, you know there's going to be a lot more than just watercolor on this. And so for right now, I'm just adding the shadows in a kind of light grayish blue color. So here in the center of the flower is where all the reproductive parts are. And so those are yellow. That's what I'm doing now. There's a bunch going on in there. And so right now I'm not going to define very much of it, if any of it at all, because I don't want to get bogged down at this stage in doing fancy little details. I think I'm finished enough with the watercolors for now. I'm going to jump into some of my colored pencils. I pulled out my box of Prismacolors, and I'm just going to work to darken up some areas that need to be darkened and define other shapes that I think a pencil would nicely define. I'm also going to darken up some of the background right behind the flower to make it pop a little better. So I've talked in the past about these Prismacolor colored pencils giving me issues when it comes to sharpening them. I originally thought that it was the pencils, and then for a moment I thought it could have been my fault. Well, I was checking out the box a little more closely, and I found out that these colored pencils are from 1996. For reference, I was born in 1998, so these colored pencils are older than I am. And so that is probably why some of them are a little brittle when it comes to sharpening them. So let's darken up some of these green parts of the flower here. I actually don't think that they're leaves. I think they are like petals that are not white. I don't know how to describe it because it doesn't really have leaves. It's a cactus. And so these are just kind of parts of the flower. I'm not exactly sure of all the names of the pieces, unfortunately. But I do, however, know that these parts are green, so I'm making them green. I'd like the flower to pop a little more, so I'm darkening up the background just around the outsides of the flower. This is going to let it really stand away from the background, almost like a shadow on the background itself. And I'm very, very happy with the way this looks. Once I finish, you'll be able to really tell the difference. It is significantly better with this behind it, as opposed to if it didn't have it. The way I can tell here that I'm happy with it is obviously doing my squint test, as I always do for everything all the time. And doing the squint test here, I was quite happy with the red background, and so I'm going to stop it there. If you're liking this video or you like videos like this, please do me a favor and subscribe to my channel, leave a like, leave a comment, share with your friends. It really helps to boost my channel in the algorithm and lets me share more things like this with you. I really appreciate any kind of help I can get. My short-term goal right now is to get to 50 subscribers so that I can live stream from my phone, so I can bring you out to events with me or onto job sites when I'm painting windows or larger paintings. And I would really love to be able to live stream that from my phone so I can talk with you guys and have some nice live interactions with you while I'm painting. While I was shamelessly begging for your subscriptions, I started my pens here. I'm making sure to be nice and quick and fluid with these. I'm not concerned with perfectly outlining my pencil drawing. A piece like this really benefits from having some energy. And so doing these quick lines where I'm not super careful about keeping to the outline allows me to inject some energy into this without having to work very hard for it. I'm coming through with some more colored pencils to darken some things up, as well as my white pen. This is basically, I've gotten this to a point where it's okay, and now I'm just refining things. I step back, I squint my eyes, like I always do, and I'm doing small adjustments now. I would say 90% of it is finished. This final 10% is what's going to turn it from an okay painting to a wonderful painting, hopefully. So that's what I'm doing right now, that final 10%. I thought this needed to be a little darker, so I went back in with watercolors. Fortunately, one of the things I really appreciate about this style that I do is I can go back and forth. Like if I put the pens down, that doesn't mean that my watercolors are done. I can add anything at any stage for the most part and still put stuff over top of it, and it won't ruin the whole thing. That's not always the case with all materials. For example, this pen that I'm using is a zebra brush pen. I found that these tend not to bleed when you put water over top of them. Some pens, especially these felt tip pens, when you put water on top of the ink, it bleeds and it blurs out. These don't do that, which I really appreciate. While doing my squint test here, I think some of the flowers need to be a little darker. Instead of doing watercolor to give more of a mixed media look, I'm coming through here with my pen that I was just telling you about. and I'm adding some hatching. I love, especially in my mixed media paintings, when I do hatch with the pen, and so it was kind of guaranteed that I was going to do this at some point. That's basically it for this. I'm going to go ahead and sign it here in the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to cut to some tape pulling videos, some glamour shots, let you guys get a good view of this outside in the sun. I think that's very important. And so that's that. We'll get to the glamour shots. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate if you stayed all the way to the end of this. If you did enjoy, don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment, share with your friends, all that standard YouTube stuff, and I will see you in the next one.